physical consciousness, you think that it is matter that is producing life and producing human beings. It is the origin of the universe is matter. But what is the origin of matter? Science can't answer. Okay. So, but when you go, so, and then there's also a problem. You are a spiritual person, you see that matter is pure energy, and pure energy without consciousness has to be necessarily mechanical. It has to be a law that operates, and that's what we see also. All the laws are there very clearly. Each season comes in time, each the eclipses come in time. Okay, everything is very, very determined. There is a determination, but there is also a freedom. So that's a problem when you see there is an element of chance as well as law. So it can't be that matter is the only origin. So there is a problem. We don't know. So when you rise in consciousness and you see also that nature is going from matter to life to mind. So let us also follow the same thing Swami is saying. Let us follow nature. So go beyond the mind to see where is the origin of everything. And when you go beyond the mind, what happens is, last time we read, and I will again read the summary of the last para so that it becomes fresh in your mind. So when you go out of your body mind life, you see that, oh, there is something much more than matter only. So what do you see? So this is what he has said in the previous para. So let us go beyond the mind to see what is the origin of the universe. So, but how to go beyond the mind? How do you do it? By silencing it. Then we perceive a witness consciousness watching, observing all movements of lower nature without, I'm reading the summary, okay? Without judgment, uninvolved, objective, unconcerned. You are the witness self, Sakshi, okay? But then you can go beyond the higher mind. So as you keep going higher and higher, something interesting happens. But when it rises higher and becomes Anuvanta, you realize that you are not only witness, but you are the permission giver to the body mind life. Okay? Then you become the Bharta, then you become the Bhokta, then you become the Ishvara, and finally you become master and the master of all existence. Purusha graduates, grows from mere witness to master and controller. That's what he said in the previous paragraph. Now we'll read the, so you have come from higher mind, you have gone to illumined mind, you have gone to intuitive mind, and now you are going to reach the overmind. Now what happens at overmind? Does something else happen? That's what he's going to examine. Do you find the solution of the origin of existence in the overmind consciousness? That's what he will discuss. So have we read it? Have we read the paragraph? No, I don't think so. No, because otherwise I have to put read.
No, we haven't.
No, we have to read the para.
That's right. So who will read today? Archana ji has got a bad throat.
I will read it.
Huh?
I'll read it.
Okay, go ahead. Overmind consciousness.
Overmind consciousness is such a state or principle beyond individual mind, beyond even universal mind in the ignorance. It carries in itself a first, direct, and masterful cognition of cosmic truth. Here, then, we might hope to understand something of the original working of things, get some insight into the fundamental movement of cosmic nature. One thing indeed becomes clear. It is self-evident here that both the individual and the cosmos come from a transcendent reality which takes form in them. The mind and life of the individual being, itself in nature, must therefore be a partial self-expression of the cosmic being, and both, through that and directly, a self-expression of the transcendent reality. A conditional and half-veiled expression it may be, but still that is its significance. But also we see that what the expression shall be is also determined by the individual himself. Only what he can in his nature receive, assimilate, formulate, his portion of the cosmic being or of the reality, can find shape in his mind and life and physical parts, something that derives from the reality, something that is in the cosmos he expresses, but in the terms of his own self-expression, in the terms of his own nature. But the original question set out for us by the phenomenon of the universe is not solved by the overmind knowledge. The question in this case, whether the building of thought, experience, world of perceptions of the mental person, the mind Purusha, is truly a self expression, a self determination proceeding from some truth of his own spiritual being, a manifestation of that truth's dynamic possibilities, or whether it is not rather a creation or construction presented to him by nature, by Prakriti, and only in the sense of being individualized in his personal formation of that nature can it be said to be his own or dependent on him. Or again, it might be a play of a cosmic imagination, a fantasia of the infinite imposed on the blank, indeterminable of his own eternal pure existence. These are the three views of creation that seem to have an equal chance of being right, and mind is incapable of definitely deciding between them. For each view is armed with its own mental logic and its appeal to intuition and experience. Overmind seems to add to the perplexity, for the overmind view of things allows each possibility to formulate itself in its own independent right and realize its own existence in cognition, in dynamic self presentation, in substantiating experience.
Yeah. Okay. So very short, we'll go into detail, but very short, he's saying, as we go higher and higher, does the problem of existence get solved? He says that you understand certain basic things. You understand in the overmind consciousness that matter is not really the origin. There is something even higher up which is the origin. That much you can understand. But what is that origin? You still don't know. Okay. So there is a confusion even at the overmind level. There are three possibilities. That one, that supreme origin which I am not yet seeing is the origin of everything in the physical world. Two, that no, it could be that matter is actually creating everything and imposing. But I have seen at the witness consciousness that it is only images. The world is only images. So it could be that Prakriti, okay, Shakti, energy, is creating these images and throwing it on my consciousness. Okay, that's the second possibility. And the third possibility is that the physical world is absolutely uh, non-existent. It is the Mayavada philosophy. So all these three are possible. So what is to be decided yet? Have you solved the problem? No, there is still a big doubt. In one letter to Dilip Kumar Roy. Dilip Kumar Roy is saying, I have faith, but there is so much of doubt in me and all that. So simply saying, what sort of doubt are you talking about? I had gigantic doubts. Simple says, I had gigantic, I may not be using the right word, but I had huge doubts. So even when you go to the overmind level of consciousness, which is so high, even there is a possibility, all sorts of possibilities are there. Only when you go to the supramental level, you realize that no, it is the Satchidananda that is the origin of everything. That is the source. That's the cause of everything. That's what you understand. When you go to the supermind level. Supermind level, you may not station yourself there permanently, but you can get glimpses of it, and that is enough to explain things to you. Now, we start reading the paragraphs one by one. Okay, so that the overmind consciousness is a force in the spiritual.
Just 1 second, Rangada. May I request everybody to mute themselves, please? Sunkili. There's a lot of static. Yes,
That's
thank you.
right. Yeah, that's right. Sunki has now muted herself, and now the sound has disappeared. That's good. Okay, so that's right. So I remind you that the overmind consciousness is the fourth in the spiritual planes of consciousness. There are three levels, as we keep going repeating in a very, very general manner. Level one, materialistic world. Okay, you are in ignorance. You have a mind, you have a life, you have a body, but you think that you are in delusion. You don't know. You don't see the unity of things. You see multiplicity, and you feel that that's a reality. This is stage number one. Okay? Level number one, the lowest one. Then the next level is the spiritual planes of consciousness. You have made your mind quiet, and in the spiritual planes of consciousness, there are 4 levels according to Sri Aurobindo. The Upanishads and all that are not very, very clear. They don't specify these. They speak in very general terms. But in Sri Aurobindo's very, very clear analysis is there. Level 1 in the second level. The first one, higher mind. Your mind has become quiet and you start seeing the origin of, you start seeing the oneness of things. Okay. Then 2, illumined mind. Light becomes the source of all knowledge. Sight and light. Then you go to the next one, intuitive mind. Intuition, knowledge without thought, without no thought at all. Okay. And you see the reality. Sight also is there, and also identification also starts at the intuitive level. Then finally at the overmind level, everything seems to be clear. You have a oneness of things you see, but you also see the multiplicity of things. But there is still something higher, you can feel that. Okay, so this is the overmind consciousness. Now I start reading. Overmind consciousness is such a state or principle beyond individual mind, beyond even universal mind in the ignorance. Now he is talking of individual mind and universal mind. So individual mind, level 1. Okay. You are your mind, my mind, everybody else's mind. Very mortal mind, that which has been constructed by nature. Okay. Our brain, which is giving the consciousness. That's individual mind. Universal mind, he is speaking of the spiritual planes of consciousness, level 2. Okay. Universal mind, your mind has become vast. In fact, your individual mind has stopped working and your consciousness has gone to the cosmic consciousness. Okay. So that's the higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, overmind. That's a universal mind in the ignorance. But mind you, it is still ignorance. Although you are far, far superior to most other human beings, still there is basically ignorance, because the multiplicity you are still seeing. You are not seeing the absolute unity of things. I go to the next phrase. It carries in itself a first direct and masterful cognition of cosmic truth. You start realizing that he'll tell you what, okay? He'll tell you what you start realizing. Here then, we might hope to understand something of the original working of things. Which is the origin of things? Okay? Is it matter or is it something else? And we hope to get some insight into the fundamental movements of cosmic nature. One thing indeed becomes clear. And what is that? It is self-evident here that both the individual and the cosmos come from a transcendent reality. There is something even above the overmind consciousness which is giving form to these, which takes form in them. So that transcendent reality, which Sri Aurobindo tells us later on, it is a Satchidananda, it becomes the universe and the universe becomes the individual. Okay? So that's what, this much is clear when you go to the overmind consciousness. But you don't see the transcendent reality yet. You get a glimpse of it, but you don't see the. By the way, the transcendent reality can be seen, you feel you are outside the universe even in the higher mind, huh? But it's all partial experiences. Okay. So, come from a transcendent reality which takes form in them. The mind and life of the individual being itself in nature must therefore be a partial self-expression of the cosmic being, and both through that and directly a self-expression of the transcendent reality. This much becomes clear. When you enter the cosmic consciousness, you realize that there is something higher up, a transcendent reality, which later on he will call Satchidananda, that gives birth to the universe. And the universe gives birth to the individual. Individual forms come from the universe. This much becomes clear. Okay. So self-expression of the transcendent reality. A conditional and half-veiled expression, it may be, okay, it may be, but still that is its significance. At the overmind consciousness, note the word may be, there is still, but you realize that there is something even higher than the overmind. Okay. Now, but also we see that what the expression shall be is also determined by the individual himself. Okay. Now this is interesting. Saying the universe is creating, the transcendent Satchidananda is creating the universe. But when it creates a universe, what is its nature? Okay. That is the thing. Is it really the thing itself, or is it a transformed thing? Is it an image of the thing? Okay. This is a huge question in Indian philosophy. They say that the origin and the result, are they essentially the same or are they different? Parinamavada, and there is other one also is there, that is it really a change of the substance or is it a representation? That's a question. So now he says, but we also say that what the expression shall be, expression of the Satchidananda. The universe is an expression of the Satchidananda. It's a photograph or a representation of the Satchidananda. But it shall also be determined by the individual himself. The individual also can see this for himself, the representation. So I'm opening that note on individual. Now, the question arises, if the individual is seeing this, is the individual mirror straight or distorted? What is the individual nature's contribution? That is what we will discuss. Okay. So, now, only what he can in his nature receive, assimilate, formulate, his portion of the cosmic being or of the reality can find shape in his mind, life and physical parts. In other words, he is an individual and he is part of the universe and the universe is part of Satchidananda. So naturally he is limited. So if he is limited, how much can he understand of the origin of things? Only as much as his limited consciousness will allow him. Very obvious. Okay. But also we see that what the expression shall be is also determined by the individual himself. Only what he can in his nature receive, assimilate, formulate, his portion of the cosmic being or of the reality can find shape in his mind, life and physical parts. If you want to explain this another way, you can say, you are a jug, you are an individual, and the cosmos has got, the ocean has got infinite water. Can this jug contain the cosmos, the infinite water of the ocean? No. So how much can it? It can only, the ocean's water can fill up only the jug. So the jug can understand only that much as it can contain. That's basically what he's saying. The individual will understand the transcendent or the cosmos only to the extent of his capacity. That's what he's saying. Okay. Only what he can in his nature receive, assimilate, formulate. Now note the interesting language. Not only receive, okay, the jug is receiving the water, but it has to understand, assimilate what it is receiving. Sometimes you receive ideas without understanding really what they are, okay. Very easy. Sometimes when we are reading Sri Aurobindo, we are receiving what he is saying, but do we assimilate and understand? Not necessarily. Then the third level, after you have understood, can you again repeat what you have said? That is a formulation. So, see the three words. Receive, assimilate and formulate. Okay. First you receive what Sri Aurobindo is telling us from the, then we have to assimilate it. You have to understand what is coming in. Then can you repeat what you have understood? That's a formulation. So, very interesting. How comprehensive language Sri Aurobindo is, okay? So, formulate. His portion of the cosmic being or of the reality can find shape in his mind and life and physical parts. So even in understanding, there are three levels. First, you allow the knowledge to come into you, but it is still not yet understood. Second level, you understand it. Third level, you can even speak about it after having understood. See, there are many people who receive knowledge, but there are many people who don't know how to formulate. In fact, nowadays it's a huge issue in management schools. Okay, communication skills, they call it. Can you formulate what you have understood? This is a huge issue nowadays in, you have to develop your communication skills. And this is not something very small, it's a very huge thing. I'll tell you, one day what happened in the press when I was there, somebody came and gave me a message. Okay. And I said, okay, I have understood. Later on, somebody else came and told me, did that person tell you? I said, yes, I got the message. Then the other man revealed that what I have understood is exactly the opposite. So that person who came and gave me the message, his communication skills were nil. He told me the opposite. Okay, so it sounds very funny, but this is often it happens. You see, you say something and then you say, oh, I didn't mean that. Okay, so what does it mean? Your power of formulation is limited. Okay, so that's why Swami is saying very clearly three things: receive, assimilate, formulate, and to the extent of your capacity. So we are going a little beyond life divine, but it's interesting how, why, that's why he's using three words. First of all, you receive, then you assimilate, you understand what you have received, and finally you can even repeat and in clear language. Okay, so now Swami is saying, something that derives from the reality, something that is in the cosmos he expresses, but in the terms of his own self-expression, in the terms of his own nature. Even if he has understood, even if all the three are perfectly okay, that means he has received the information from the higher source, he has assimilated it, but how is he going to speak about it? That's a different thing. Okay, so you will express only what your nature is allowing you. And that's very obvious also, because if I know only English, I'll say in English. If I know only Gujarati, I'll say it in Gujarati. I will say exactly what is available to me. That's what Sridhar is saying. Okay? Something that's in the cosmos, but in the terms of his own self-expression, in the terms of his own nature. But the original question set out for us by the phenomenon of the universe is not solved by the overnight knowledge. What are the original phenomena? Is matter the ultimate reality which is creating everything? That was the problem. That problem does not get solved. Okay, that's what Sridhar is saying at the overmind level. The question in this case, now that's what he's saying. The question in this case, whether the building of thought, experience, world of perceptions of the mental person, the mind, Purusha, is truly an self-expression, a self-determination, proceeding from some truth of his own spiritual being, a manifestation of that truth's dynamic possibilities, or whether it is not rather a creation or construction presented to him by nature, by Prakriti, and only in the sense of being individualized in his personal formation of that nature can it be said to be his own or dependent on him. Or again, it might be a play of the cosmic imagination, a fantasia of the infinite imposed on the blank indeterminable of his own eternal pure existence. We'll explain in very short what he's saying. These are the three views of creation that seem to have an equal chance of being right. So what are the three views? We'll see. And mind is incapable of definitely deciding between them. At the overmind level of consciousness, three possibilities. I still don't know what is the real origin of everything. I know that there is something above the overmind consciousness, but is that really the origin, or is matter still the origin? So what is the origin? Okay, so experience. Overmind seems to add to the perplexity, for the overmental view of things allows each possibility to formulate itself in its own independent right and realize its own existence in cognition, in dynamic self-presentation, in substantiating experience. Now, we'll see the last sentence first and then we go back to the three views possible. Okay. Now, here again, Sriranga has given three things. Overmind seems to add to the perplexity. What is the origin? What is the final reality of things? From where is it coming? For the overmind view of things allows each possibility to formulate itself in its own independent right and realize its own existence in cognition, dynamic self-presentation, and substantiating experience. So, now, we'll look at each sentence because you have to understand. Remember, the supermind holds the oneness of things. Okay? To understand the difference between the Satchidananda, the supermind, and the overmind, we'll give a a brief description of this. The ultimate reality is Satchidananda, but it is beyond all consciousness and it is unmanifest. That's the number one. You can call it the Turiya, the unmanifest. You can experience it, but you can't manifest it. So how to manifest? The world is a reality. How is it manifested? Through the supermind. So it is supermind that creates the universe. Okay, that which is unmanifested, the supermind is creating. Number one. So what is it creation? That we have seen also. Creation means a multiplication of all the possibilities that are there in the seed. The seed is Satchidananda and the seed contains all the possibilities of the tree. Okay? So multiplicity, leaves, flowers, fruits. So this is all the forms in the universe. So, and that it does in 3 degrees, supermind. Level 1, level 2, level 3. I should not use the word level. Okay, I'll say state 1, state 2, state 3. State 1 in the supermind is the oneness of things. Absolutely, the sea is absolutely silent, vast, infinite, pure, without features, without any movement. This is the first, the triple status of supermind. Okay, so this is the first. If you reach that consciousness, you see only oneness. You don't see any multiplicity. Okay, then this multiplicity, this static condition, starts making waves. The sea starts making waves. That means the beginning of forms. But if you are in that consciousness, in the second level, the second status of supermind, the waves are forming. The individual forms are coming into existence. But you are also a individual and you are experiencing that. So you feel that, oh, each wave is part of the sea. It is conscious that it is part of the sea. Okay. There is a second one. But it is mainly the sea and it's also becoming individualized. There is a second status of supermind. Third status of supermind, the wave starts becoming more conscious of its own existence and is beginning to forget that it is part of the sea. Okay? There is a third status of supermind. In other words, you are more conscious of your individuality, but you are still conscious that I am part of the whole, I am part of the sea. When you come down, this is the triple status of supermind. In 3 degrees, it is creating. But when it creates overmind consciousness, multiplicity becomes a fact. Okay. Now multiplicity becomes a fact. And how many multiplicities are there in the universe? Infinite. That's why the overmind consciousness is full of infinite possibilities. So if infinite possibilities are there, how will you know what is the ultimate possibility? What is the ultimate reality? You can't. That's what Swaramdev is explaining here. Okay. So, and remember, the overmind consciousness is full of gods and principles. Okay. Each infinite forms, all in the physical world, all the forms are represented by a god. Okay. That's why there are infinite numbers. You can't name all the infinite gods, but the Vedic gods are all, you know, Varuna, Indra, okay, Mitra, all these. Each god represents a possibility. And the thing is that each one is valid. And you get in the overmind consciousness, each possibility has the power to become only what it is. That is what Sridhar is explaining in the last sentence. Okay, we'll see the 3 views. I have not yet seen the 3 views, but I am discussing only the last sentence. Overmind seems to add to the perplexity for, the word for here means because the overmental view of things allows each possibility to formulate itself in its own independent right. Number one, it can give form to its own principle, realize its own existence in cognition, okay, in dynamic self-presentation, and finally substantiating experience. 3 levels. The creation takes place in 3 levels. First is cognition. It's an idea. Okay, the idea. Let's take one example. Okay, let us take, for instance, Even you can think of it even as a, let's say any one possibility. Let's take a lotus, for instance, okay? The blueprint of the lotus is the first. The blueprint is made. That's a cognition, the idea, real idea. Finally, it becomes a dynamic self-presentation. It becomes not only an idea, but now it becomes a possibility. I'll discuss this dynamic self-presentation also afterwards. And finally, it becomes substantiating experience. Note the word substantiating, it becomes a physical reality in substance. So everything even in the physical world, every creation has 3 stages. Suppose you want to make a building, okay? I go back to that phrase all the time because that's exactly what happens at the spiritual level of consciousness also. First of all, there's an idea, a blueprint. An architect makes a plan, a blueprint of the building. Second, he gathers all the materials, dynamic self-presentation. He gets hold of the money, he gets hold of masons, he gets hold of the material. That's a dynamic self-presentation. Finally, he starts putting it into, you start building the house, substantiating experience. In substance, it's no more an idea, it's no more a possibility, it becomes a reality in substance. Okay? So this is what you see in the overmind level of consciousness. Each thing that you can think of, it has got the full right to express itself. And that is the reason why the physical world is full of dualities. Everything that is possible becomes a reality here. That's why the world is full of opposite ideas and each one is valid. Okay? Peace is valid, but also violence is valid. Okay? Freedom is valid, discipline also is valid. They are opposites, but they are all possible in the physical world because infinite creation is there. So this is what he's saying about the overmind consciousness. So when you are at the overmind consciousness, what are the 3 possibilities? That's what now we will discuss. Okay, so the 3 possibilities are like this. The first is the universe, which is Prakriti, really an expression of the Purusha? Satchitananda? Is it? When I see a photograph of New York, is the photograph really a correct representation of New York? The Advaita philosophy says yes. It's an image, but it's a real image. It's not a false image. There's no distortion in it. Okay, that's the first view. Second view, is the universe a creation of Prakriti? Is matter creating the universe? Okay, even if it is real, okay, matter is creating a real world, but this real world I have seen when I am in the overmind level of consciousness. I am in the higher mind level of consciousness. I am seeing that the physical world is nothing but images. So the universe, matter is creating images and throwing them on my consciousness, which is static and absolutely permanent. So again, you get the idea of the cinema, then it becomes clear. You are the eternal screen, infinite, white, featureless. I'm saying white because I'm using the image of the cinema screen, okay? And the images of the physical world are being thrown on the screen and you think that they are real. You have identified yourself with the images. This requires a little bit of imagination and thinking. You are thinking that you are body, mind, life. Your body, mind, life are only images, but you have identified yourself with them. Who are you? You are the screen, which is infinite, featureless, silent, static, without movement. The screen doesn't move. The images are moving on the screen. Okay? So this is what he's saying. So first, is the universe, okay, agreed, there is a photograph, it's a representation, but is it real? Is there any distortion? Advaita says no. It is an indication of that. It's not the reality itself, but it's an indication of that, and quite a good indication. Then the second one, matter is producing all these images and throwing these images on my consciousness. That also is the second possibility. Third possibility, the universe seemingly real, a cosmic unreal imagination imposed on the Purusha. The universe is neither created by the superconscious nor by the inconscient. It's only an unreal image created by the inconscient Prakriti, and forcibly imposed on the individual screen. This is Mayavada philosophy. So, the three philosophies: is the physical world and the individual agreed that it's a representation, but is it real? Number one. Number two, is matter producing real images and throwing them on my consciousness? Number three, okay, matter is producing images which are not real. So these are the three philosophies: Advaita, Mayavada, and the other one, the middle one, they are imposed on me. Okay, there's the other philosophy. So these are the three possibilities, and you cannot decide which one is the reality in the overmind consciousness. Only when you go to the supramental level, you realize that it is the Satchidananda which is the origin of everything. Yes, it is true that matter also is producing, but it's a secondary creative power. It's not the original creative power. Okay? So, this is what he's saying in the language is very complex, but I have tried to put it as clearly as possible. It takes a huge amount of time to understand what he's saying. But with images, it helps a little bit. Okay? These are the three philosophies that take place, and you don't know which is the reality yet. Okay? You remember he has discussed this earlier also. He says that when you go to the higher mind, witness consciousness, you see that the physical world are only images. Okay? Now the question arises, these images, is the universe only images? Or when you go to a higher level of consciousness, you see that there is a reality also. Behind the images, there is a reality. So, if you go to spiritual Srimdo's view, there is the physical world are images, but behind the images, there is an ultimate reality, which you don't necessarily see at the higher mind level. But as you keep going higher and higher, you do see that there is a reality hiding even in the universe. Okay, so that's it. What he's saying in the para. Okay, so now I'm reading out the summary of what he's saying here. Just say we have gone into great detail, so now the summary in short. The overmind consciousness gives us a first view of cosmic truth. We see here that both the individual and the cosmos are sourced from a last higher reality. Okay. We see in the cosmic consciousness that there is something even higher up which is real, but we don't know still what it is very clearly. But the problem of the ultimate truth of determination remains unsolved. The universe and myself, from where have we come? Have we come from above or have we come from below? Is matter creating me? Okay. Three possibilities exist. Okay. Number one, Purusha creates Prakriti. In other words, Satchidananda creates the universe. Purusha, consciousness. Okay, Purusha, the Ishvara, the Lord, the supermind, creates the Prakriti, the universe. Universe is the expression of a supreme reality. Okay, expression. It's not the reality. It's an expression, a photograph of the supreme reality. This is Satchidananda. Supreme reality, what is it? Satchidananda. This is a possibility. Second possibility. Prakriti is imposing its creation, even if real, on the self. Prakriti, okay? Shakti. Shakti is, we have seen even science is saying that matter is Shakti, energy. And that energy is going on creating forms. Are these forms real or unreal is the question. So that's the second possibility. Even if the forms are real, they are being thrown on my consciousness. The images are being imposed on the screen of my consciousness. That's the second possibility. Third possibility, the images that is being created are false. They are not real. They are only unreal images. That's a Mayavada philosophy. So these are the three possibilities which you cannot solve even at the overmind level. So when you go to the higher mind level or get a touch of it, you start realizing that the origin of everything is Satchidananda. And the origin of everything from the lower end is matter, but it's a secondary creative power. It's not the real power. This is what he's saying in the para. So we'll come to 8:30. We have got 5 minutes. So what is how big is the next para? Let's have a look. It's about a page. So rather than read it, if you have any questions or any doubts, we can discuss that, because it's quite a complex thing. It's not very easy to understand. It takes a long time to understand. You read, reread, and then it becomes, because these concepts are so vague to us, okay? We can't think of them. We are so well entrenched in the physical world that we understand. But the moment we come to abstract ideas, they are not really abstract. But when we are thinking with the mind, they become abstract. But Sri Aurobindo says very clearly that spiritual realities are not abstract. They are even more real than the physical forms. Okay. So, if you have any questions or doubts, we will look at that. I think we'll leave the paragraph for next time, because it's quite. It's about. Yeah. Tell me.
Can I ask?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
You know, in life divine synthesis everywhere, Sri Aurobindo is always comparing his yoga with the Mayavads and Shankaracharya and Advaita.
Okay.
Why can't we just get his point of view, which is much superior to others, than comparing and confusing ourselves?
I don't think I really followed what you said. Yasmin, can you please repeat? I'm sorry, but can you repeat what you said?
You know, in the life divine,
yes,
and in synthesis,
uh-huh.
Sri Aurobindo, I know that he sees everything from a very vast horizon.
Yes.
And he will talk about the theory of the Advaita and the Mayavada and Shankaracharya and all of them.
Yes.
And finally, he will talk about his integral yoga.
That's right.
But now, we only want to know his integral yoga. We are not bothered about the others. We don't want to compare.
Okay. Okay. Yasmin, you are an individual and that is your view, okay? But there are many others who will say that Shankara is so convincing, and not only Shankara is convincing, but I myself have had a spiritual experience and I am seeing that what Shankara is saying is real. I myself have had an experience which I am seeing that Mayavada is real. So that's why he discusses all the possibilities. Okay, that's the reason. He doesn't cater only to one view. Your idea that yes, you would like to know only Sri Aurobindo is fine, but it's going on faith, na? Somebody else may say, why should I take Sri Aurobindo at face value? I want to see what the others are also saying. Okay. So
that is why his is integral yoga, because he has to take the essence of everything and synthesize.
Yeah. He is not dismissing the others. He is saying that they also have a truth. And what is the truth he is discussing? Yasmin, you are going by faith, but everybody may not have your faith. So he caters to everybody's questions, not only yours. It's very good to have faith, but somebody will say, oh, this you are going by faith. In fact, I'll tell you something very interesting, okay? A Bengali professor of philosophy came to Pondicherry and he was speaking with Jugalda, okay? And a professor of philosophy in the physical world, okay, he doesn't have spiritual experience, but he has got a very strong mind and he wants to understand everything by reason. If you can rationally give explanations, he will be satisfied. That is also the difference between philosophy in the West and philosophy in India. Okay, Indian philosophy is all based on experience. In the West, it is mostly speculation. They even use the word speculation. You have an experience and then you speculate. But in India, it is always based in experience. Now, this man came and he was telling that I have a huge amount of problems in my mind. He told Jugalda. Jugalda told me this himself. He said that A huge number of what is the origin of things, what is reality, from where have I come? I can't understand all this. What is the origin of the universe? I am thinking and I don't get any solutions at all. So Jugalda told him very frankly, and that's exactly what Yasmin is saying. Why don't you go to Sri Aurobindo? Read Life Divine and you'll get all your answers. You know what that man said? He said, oh, Life Divine to a goppo. Goppo means a story. Okay, it's a hypothesis. So, is that a fact? Because when you come to the crucial things, you can't express it in mental terms. That's what that man meant. Okay? He says that is not based on logic. That is not based on reason. Life divine is not reason. It's an expression. In fact, Sri Aurobindo himself has said that. He said, I'm not trying to do philosophy. I'm just telling you what I've experienced. Okay? So, everybody may not agree with you, Yasmin, and say that I will take what Sri Aurobindo is saying as the ultimate truth. But everybody may not do that. So Sri Aurobindo has to, that's why in Life Divine, you will see again and again the language is, he takes you by the hand, okay, and says, look, this possibility is there. Look, that possibility is there. It may be said, it can be considered. This sort of language he uses all the time. He never imposes himself on you. If you want to follow, fine. If you don't want to follow, you are free to do what you want. You can stop at the Mayavada philosophy, it is right for you. You want to stop at the Advaita philosophy, it is right for you. If you want to go to Sri Aurobindo and go up to the ultimate level, that is right for you. Everybody has got different views and they have all to be taken into consideration. Okay. Yasmin is making things very simple for herself by being very, very clear that yes, I will take what Sri Aurobindo is saying as reality. But everybody may not do that. And so Sri Aurobindo has to explain that also there is a point of view there. It is not absolutely false. There is a truth to everything. That's what he is doing. Yasmin, you are lucky. You have faith. But if there is a person who is very, very based in the mind and he wants everything to be explained to him reasonably and rationally, then there is a problem. Okay. Sri Aurobindo uses a lot of logic in his Life Divine, but the logic is not always. When you come to a crucial point, he makes a statement based on experience. That's the thing. Okay.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay. Au revoir, everybody. I have to type what we have to.